Welcome to today's episode of Loud and Brown. I'm your host today, Sully, and it's a privilege to have on board also Harry. I've known Harry since the good old uni days. Obviously, it's great to see yourself also, and great to see the things that you have done in recent times since our days back at uni. Obviously, we'll definitely go through that and touch more about that kind of stuff. But how's things been with you lately, and what you've been up to?
Yeah, good, thanks. First of all, thanks for the opportunity to come on the show. I really appreciate this platform and also your setup here. Obviously, for those probably listening or watching, we're in the $1 million suburb of Otahuhu, so I was cruising through, just having a look at all these villas. I was like, this guy, this guy, the 1%, so it was cool. I just recently been working in the professional sense, just work up the road, just at the law centre, and do a bit of work on in the governance side on the local board, and I'm sure we'll unpack it a bit as we go on. But things been all good on this side. How's things been on your side?
Yeah, no, it's been good. Oh man, I think since uni, just pretty much family, got kids, and then just working. I think for me it was like as soon as I got into working, I just didn't want to stop. Like I think $130 of student allowance on a week was man. Man, I used to remember back in the quad days, like just waiting for Wednesday, Thursday, just for your student allowance to go through, and then, man, like just making it stretch for the next week.
Bro, straight up, honestly, because I still catch up with my uni boys quite a bit, so every second or third day. But we were just reminiscing back in the days at uni. It was like a butter chickens friends combo, and that's all you had, But back then, when we started, those combos were $7-8. I mean, all you now, I'll flip, 15, 16. So, I guess times have changed, and probably those who are going through uni now. And I think the student allowance has gone up, living costs has gone up, quite a bit, good, so quite a bit. So I think the days of Mangere are no longer there. It's getting a little bit, but obviously with the cost of living and even transport, despite it being subsidised, it's still quite a bit. So I guess we'll unpack these things as we get along. But things have been good on this side. Good to see you doing your thing, and obviously good to be here and just a privilege to actually join the mic and talk some smack and tell some myths and unpack the blues and shortly. So
thank you for coming on board. Also, obviously you're a proud Westie yourself, born and bred, but what's it been like to move to the Lighthouse?
So I mean, be careful what I say here.
So when did you move into Mangere?
So it was pretty much 2012 was probably the first time I actually moved out here, and I was pretty much the start from the beginning because like you said, we were born and bred out west there, and lived in Glendine my whole life, so Henderson, Glendine, and then it wasn't until 2012 my wife, her grandfather, stayed out in Mangere East. So we spent some time out in Mangere East, and then we moved to where we're at now, just in what we call Mangere Central, or just in and along near the strawberry farm. And been there ever since. So 2012 kind of unofficially. 2015 was when we were like, we'll lay our roots down here, and it's been awesome. I get it all the time from my Westie fams, but when we grew up out west, it's much similar like here out south. Everybody knows everybody. People playing on the street. You know your neighbours, and as we grew up out west, they're kind of slowly diminished. Everyone just keeps to themselves. But over here, people still know everybody. You still see the great community at the markets or town centre, so there's still that communal feel. And when we were growing up, we always heard South had a bad rap. But man, growing up here, living here, totally different. You actually become proud of the place, and it's like
don't listen to me. Don't listen to the news.
Man.
They don't know about Southside.
And honestly, tell my family, honestly, this is a place to raise your kids now, man. I'd rather raise them out here out south than Don't get me wrong, still wonderful people out west, and community, man, undefeated out here.
The benefit of Southside as well, we've got the luxury of better infrastructure, and just access. You can always jump on from out south, from where we are, Mangere and Otahuhu. There's always State Highway 1 or State Highway 16. You're not too far from a train station or from the bus depot, so like especially like if you're setting up a family and looking to set up a house moving forward, like there's all these resources access that is easy to access. So like because I have friends and family as well that's out west, and that's probably always been their main complaint is how far it is from everything else. So
and to a certain degree, as Auckland expands now, so you're like Hobsonville Point, you're going further and further. West will be kind of considered central, or even south, like you look at Mangere Bridge or even Otahuhu, because under the old Auckland Legacy Council, you guys, Otahuhu, where we're at now, was classified central. But it was the poor cousin of central, because you look at the money that's been spent everywhere else in the Auckland things, like we've got a town hall that's falling apart. And so contrary to popular belief, like the Manukau ward, it actually one of the richest kind of city councils, because we kept our assets, we had the airport and so on and so forth. And then once the Auckland City Council merged together, they merged Mangere and Otahuhu, but Otahuhu had a historic kind of underinvestment, and that still happens to this day. Like you look at the town centre, the main strip, they were carrying out renovations, got halted halfway through because of COVID. And then they diverted the money to America's Cup. And so we go win a cup, but we've got a half-done town centre or half-done main strip. But that's it's almost like a microcosm of what happens in general. We always get the kind of short end of the stick, for lack of a better term. But
Siki, you briefly touched on it, like obviously the similarities between West Side, and would that be the same, just the fact that obviously we were like quite similar cultural backgrounds, like the fact that you see obviously out west, you would have been close with a lot of the poly community there growing up. Is that the similarities that you see here out south? And if so, like what are the differences that you see from say from West Side back then to Otahuhu now?
I'll probably say I think you hit the nail on the head. It's pretty much similar. Our Polynesian community is probably just more out here, more concentrated out here. In terms of sheer numbers, that's a fact. But the issues are relatively the same, and then that's also reflected in council. They set up a southern initiative that was solely focused on South Auckland kind of thing, and then they also set up a west or kind of western initiative, kind of because we share similar socio-economic factors, So there's like a poor kind of representation, like a high prevalence of those socio-economic factors that feature in South and are almost identical out West, and that's where majority of our Pacific peoples are concentrated. I think off the top of my memory there might be a higher proportion of Māori out West, but out South I think similarities in terms of our Pacific communities, probably humour differences, humour differences, and we catch it like at uni and stuff like that. But hey man, Islanders know how to mock whether you're from West or South, or perhaps not North Shore and Central, or Wellington, because Wellington got their own humour, and Christchurch, but the South and West, I think South just got the edge in terms of real, what we call maupopoi, everyone's together, everyone, they're right together and stuff like that, and West has it, but not in the spades that South does. They got the humour, but not necessarily the kind of sheer numbers and resources that South have in terms of that, what we call a cultural capital, for lack of a better term, so they've got that in spades out here, so it's good.
Sick, yes. And so, like, just and you just mentioned, so with Otahuhu, like, I didn't know about that, because I was wondering why, like, it was taking forever to have the main strip for, like, because there was barriers set up, like, way after COVID still, and, like, nothing was being done. I think it was at the end of last year that they kind of finished it up, but, I think it came in now, like the council, like notes in the paper, or even on online, that there was this massive shift to make Otahuhu like a mini location for like directing from town to everywhere else out south, and the transport centre is awesome, man. Like a lot flasher from the depot that I remember growing up, and just even going through to the train station now, it's awesome to see that kind of stuff happen. And But I hope, like, moving forward, that like more and more these initiatives doesn't stop just at Otahuhu. Obviously, there's a rich culture out at Mangere as well as in Otahuhu, and it's like you said, like it's only the negative stuff that gets highlighted in the news, but. Man,
it is. And I think, like, man, I'll probably explain it in a real simple sense, because, our public just, a lot of people don't really kind of understand what happened, So as soon as COVID hit, that 4-week lockdown that we had, so from a council perspective, we lost like close to over $500 million or $750 million, So let's just say $7.50, right? We lost $7.50, and we lost that $7.50. Say $10 is a billion. We lost that $7.50 because council's revenue generating arms, so the ones how we make our money. So that's through transport, people paying buses. So when you stop that for 4 weeks, we've lost I think it's to the tune of $600-700 million, So somehow we got to figure out how we're going to recoup this money, or how we're going to deliver the projects that we set for that budget, right? With $7.50 less from a $10 kind of what we do. So you're trying to deliver $7.50 on a $2.50 kind of budget, or what we got left there. So council has to make these hard calls, and one of those hard calls was, But even further was when they were doing the infrastructure work. They kind of dug underneath, and they realised whoever laid the pipes and all that stuff, so it was worse than initially expected, So it required more money, more investment kind of thing. And so shout out to those who are actually there. Roger, he's a business improvement district manager, and the team that work around there. But that was just a little insight for the people in Otahuhu in terms of not just the challenge that Otahuhu face, but Auckland Council as a whole. And the same could be said for every other council in the country. So when we lock it down for 4 weeks, there's actual kind of impacts that it has. So anytime we go into lockdown, I fear, man, because that means that council's money is going to be reduced, and that means that the services that we deliver, whether it be your library, whether it be fixing your roads and so on and so forth, that's going to impact. But it disproportionately impacts our south communities, disproportionately impacts our west community. So if I just give a brief example, if they say, look, we've got to increase rates 5% for 1 year just to kind of recoup it, they're going to relay that to our people. That's all good and well if you're earning 6 figures or you're on a good salary in central Auckland. But for the bulk of our people, and which is a fact, Mangere Otahuhu got the lowest household incomes out of any local board, then that's going to disproportionately affect our people. So it's what decision makers have to kind of contemplate all the time. Do we lay this on our people knowing that they're already stressed as it is, or do we borrow more but then let the next generation kind of pay it off? So it's a real balancing act there, and it's a real kind of so that's the challenge. But I don't think council communicates that to the everyday person. People don't even know what we do, local board. So if we can't even communicate that, then it's just a challenge. I guess that's civics education in general.
It's part of it's like information that you have to actually go and look for it.
Who's going to look up? Honestly, I'd rather watch TikToks and stuff like that. But I think it's symptomatic of any government organisation. How do we put it in bite-sized, everyday person language that they're able to pick it up in whatever form, whether it's a 30-second clip, a soundbite, because we're truly soundbite generation. If you don't get it within 15 seconds or a headline,
you lose interest.
We've lost the interest.
No, that's awesome, man. And see stuff like that, like you just said, everyone would understand it as well. For myself, what are you gonna do, man? If the way they laid the pipes back in the day wasn't good enough, especially, and there's no reason just to go over it and when you're gonna have to dig it up, 5-10 years later just to fix it. So stuff information like that everybody, and especially in the Otahuhu and or just in the Southside community, would understand, because if there's one thing that we're all brought up to understand is if you're gonna do something, you do it right. So that's
do it once, do it right, huh?
So that's probably messages that we need to probably forward onto our people here in the community, and it's something that I think the council needs to understand, is that people are understanding. I know that especially with COVID, and the limited resources because of COVID, I think people are more understanding now. Thank you to that's probably one of the one of the better things of COVID is that people are more understanding to the situations that every person is going through. So that's awesome. And we'll touch more in regards to like stuff that you do obviously in the local community, but we'll move into a bit of more information regarding yourself, like I said, you're proud Westie, but at the same time you're a devout Christian, and then I know that you're a man who likes that's very proud of your culture as well, Luz, and that's something that's obviously instilled from you at a very young age. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing as well, and then obviously all the way through to uni.
Cool, sweet. So much like many of your previous guests say, Mum and Dad came from Samoa in search of a better future, and so my dad is from Vaingaru-Lepa, a little place called Vaingaru. And Lepa is just on the southeast coast there in the district of Akua. Home to many prominent people, people that people love to just slog online, and all you aufwaikio, so my dad's from Vaingaru-Lepa and my mum's from Vaiete in Safaka. So they met at Teachers Training College, and then instead of graduating, boom, my older brother. And then, they had my older brother, and then moved to New Zealand, and then the rest of us. So my older sister who's in Kuwait, and myself and my younger sister Levy, who stays over here as well. And then, like other families, you have these adopted ones, So, sister called Faye, she lived in UK for a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and younger sister called Langi, and our little brother Bob. So there was kind of a mob of us, but so, there were roughly 6-7 of us, growing up, nice. Kind of thing, So, and then we were brought up in the church, So we were brought up in Henderson, Efaka Asa at the time.
Yeah.
So, so exactly the same doctrinal beliefs as the Efakasa, or Congregational Christian Church for the listeners, But the theological college is based in America, Samoa, so that's the only difference. So whereas you guys are in Malua, we're in Kananafo in America, Samoa.
That's the one.
Yeah, so that's where we grew up, and a lot of it, so because Mum and Dad were teachers, they knew the value of education, So Dad was a factory worker, and to this day still is a factory worker, and Mum kind of done a bit of early childhood care, and then went back and done her studies and completed her studies, and now works as a health, or kind of like a health practitioner, or like more family support services for the whānau. So she works in that kind of space and that. But from a young age, because they were educators by trade in Samoa, they instilled, like all our parents say, the value of education and stuff. It was probably hardest on my older brother, because Mum and Dad were still from Samoa, the angamu'u and stuff like that. Raised him in the traditional Samoan way, so, and I think they have that special affinity with him as well, because firstborn, they always have that special affinity with him as well, so he bore the hard line, and then as Mum and Dad adapted to New Zealand life in New Zealand, we kind of all got it easier, and you always acknowledge, because my brother also dropped out of high school, or I finished high school, but it eventually entered the workforce, but more so to help Mum and Dad put us through school. So there's a real element of indebtedness to your older siblings, to Mum and Dad who put us through. Went to Avondale College, and found a really good set of friends there. Even though we lived down the road from Kelston, we weren't too far from Kelston. And it was really set. So Mum and Dad laid the platform, and I think I was pretty privileged at a young age. And they put us through tutoring as well. I think that was the key difference, to be honest. They sacrificed a lot and put us through additional tutoring. So myself, my sister, and my younger sister, but see, by that time my older brother was well gone, and just and that was a massive benefit. And then managed to get into, I done really well at Avondale College, and then managed to get into university. It was interesting times at university. But what I would say about this is that church was, the cultural hub. Church was the place that not only gave you the spiritual kind of security and the spiritual understanding growing up, but also was a hub for the ngangungu stuff, and that's where they play such a pivotal role. It's almost like a bastion of culture, or the New Age village. If you look at some of the literature, it's become synonymous with the New Age, or ekalesia ma'ulokua. And so it was a real kind of, man, I owed so much to my church, like to the upbringing and then I had there. But my dad was very interesting because he's very astute when it comes to ngangungu stuff, cultural customs and traditions. So we made a pact. I was like, because I was kind of intrigued by it, Yeah, my biggest regret was not going to, when they go to cities and stuff when you're younger, and you'd rather go muck around and stuff like that, or when the whalawe and that come on and stuff. So we'd always go, but as a kid you just go wander around, but not realising, not valuing exactly how pivotal that would be, in the preservation of our culture. And so we made a pact, because as I started going through high school, I started to really kind of understand the value of it. You make a pact that as soon as I finish university, you'll start teaching me that stuff. Yeah, I'm still waiting. It's the pact that doesn't end. So graduated, and I'm still waiting to be taught. And I think now he kind of regrets it a little bit because of the way that we work, like the nature of my job. If there's a Samoan client, then I'll speak to them in Samoan, help them in Samoan. And I think they were taught, English is kind of like the kind of, not measure of success, but that's how you cut it in the Western world. You've got to be astute. Like, where is the place of Samoa in natures of success? Not realizing that now that we work in the heart of our culture and the heart of our people, there's a real place to help people if you well versed in ngangungu or the in the nangai, but in the language. But in saying so, I never forget what he said. He was telling me, if an old man comes or old lady comes, even if you've got like broken Samoan, the New Zealand born, they will still appreciate the fact that you tried. Trying it. Yeah, or at least if they can communicate in Samoan, and you understand, they will. It brings joy to them when they see, and then they ask you, are you New Zealand born and stuff like that, or whatever. But that's what's always stuck with me. So I think, man, it's real interesting, especially probably in the loka iki space. I always have a conversation with my uncle about this. It's East Tamaki FX. What is belonging. Yeah. So what is the future of Samoa here in New Zealand, and is it still going to be around? Because we've got a wave of anti. Or does it have a place within? Especially like, and you can kind of understand those who are kind of anti-Samoa and stuff like that, because you kind of measure it with the cost of living and the pressures and stuff like that. It can become overwhelming. But if you're not fully versed in the principles of it, and if you don't fully understand like the meaning of a lot of our the underlying principles, and often obviously it becomes really like a pride exercise and stuff like that. But man, I can honestly say, hand on heart, we've given $1 million to people, not knowing that when it'll come around to your turn, but the moment it comes to when you are the beneficiary of it, then you'll see how powerful this social exchange system that we have underpinned by love really comes to actually thing. And a lot of it turns on makaizi as well, And so if you haven't picked up already, we're talking about whalawe, because that's often what's been so tarnished by obviously people living abroad or people living in diaspora. But for us, man, it turns on your makais. If your makais are good, if they have the leadership and the foresight, then they will make those provisions for rainy days. Like, we have this family system that we always talk about, where we've got quite a large family here in New Zealand, but the makais, we have like a family bingo that operates every fortnight. We're not playing for money. It's not one of these little pyramid schemes, or we can talk about pyramid schemes, looms, arbots, you name it. I'll name and shame them. But there's another blight on our community. We can talk about all social hazards tonight. But but basically, we have like a family big. It's not for money, but every worker contributes. So say, for example, $20, and if you've got a workforce of say 50 people, and that fund just builds. Right, and that fund is there for whether we have a whalawe, whether it be by way of a funeral or a wedding. We've got that kind of social net set aside. So it's not. So once it comes up, it's not some unforeseen. Everyone forks out. But if you've got the foresight and the wisdom to put aside for rainy days, then and that's why when people mention whalawe, I'm like, just depends, man. If you're blessed to have good leaders who have that foresight and can put provisional stuff aside, then you can think, but we also got to be aware, you never forget what Ep.9 man. Samoa's not the orator that stands up in the front, that takes a CE or, does all the laungas. It's often what's done behind the scenes. It's the person, lauing the pusapisupos, it's the woman out back, or the men out back, pursuing the umu and stuff like that. It's a range of things, but we all get fixated that it's either the embodiment through the person standing in the front or the person who gives the most as such. And but we can go all night about that one, I really wanted to make it clear, it really turns on the strength and the wisdom of your leaders, but then also their ability to raise the next generation, handed over to us. So our family is starting to bring in the younger ones to run, and we set up like a normal lau. We've got the chairperson, the treasurer, and the secretary. Same thing. And when you foster that and you think about the succession, so now we're starting to point my generation to take over the books, take over the things, then you know that you got provisions for it. It's interesting when we communicate it to our in-laws, trying to convince a non-Samoan wife, this is how it works. But once you once you explain it, then they kind of on board. I see how it works. But
no, that's awesome. There's a lot of great times in that. That you just went through, because it's actually very enlightening as well. I feel like me and you probably got similar upbringings as well. I was the eldest. I am. Still alive. I am the eldest. And so my dad, he never really relied on anyone besides himself. And then obviously with me there, so when it came to whalawe, I was always by his side. Never really understood what was happening, but I was always there. My lava, sit beside him, go up and all stuff and all of that. And that was more so him just showing, because my dad dropped out of high school. Dropped out of school real early, probably 10 or 11, just to help out for his after his parents. So his life has always been a life of service to his elders. So for him, just the way you were talking as well regarding money, we were never the most affluent family growing up, but the way my dad contributed or wasn't financially, but was through the service of the family, and he withheld being a makai for years because he knew the
undertaking.
The undertaking, and he wasn't ready to put, not say the financial stress, but it's not stress. He wanted, if he was to become a makai, he wanted something that he could stand on, or some sort of foundation, so that he can contribute as well as the same to others. And that's one thing I think why my family, especially my extended family, have so much respect for him. It's just he still got wars now hard out to the elders, and he's always respectful of the elders, whether they've got a makai or not. So that's one thing I've always, and I'm on the same boat as you. I think he's waiting for me to answer. That's we had a pact from real young, say from 7 or 8, and it's just he still got the book, and it's a book.
Sorry, I got one as well, honestly. But sometimes how they sometimes pose a question, if your house burns on fire, and you could only grab 3 items or 1 item, because you got an app on the phone, I would grab that, because there's the whole book of secrets, or even try to ninja my other friends ones, because because that's where all the ngafas are. That's where your whaias are with different villages. I know what you mean, man. Honestly,
so my dad's got one of those books that forever grows, man. So it's mean that you shared that, because I connect with that heaps, man, and it's awesome that you guys are doing that little initiative as well, just not only to bring through the next generation, but at the same time, I know what it's like when it's especially when you grow up through the church or through our culture. We never wants to say no, or never want, and people don't understand that.
Hard up.
Also, so I wanted to touch on something that you alluded to, as well as through that little speech that you had, also regarding whalawe. how do you feel about people who identify themselves as Samoan and so open about it and so prideful about it, especially on social media and different like avenues to express themselves, but like, you know, choose to not accept like whaalavi or stuff of that similar nature as part of, like, you know, identifying themselves as a Samoan. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's a tricky one, because like it happens all the time, even with weddings, for example. Oh, I want to get married, but I don't want the Samoa stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, so do we get to pick and choose which part of our culture we want to do? Or like, but you kind of like, when I worked at the university, I hate that time, but we ran the targeted admission scheme, and that question came up: what constitutes an islander? What constitutes being Pacifica? What constitutes being a Samoan? In our case, to your question, and you have to realise everyone is on a spectrum. There's a continuum. There's those who are deeply rooted in Samoa, and then there's those in their journey who dad might have been Samoan, mum was Palangi but was estranged, you know, so never discovered his side or never discovered their side, kind of thing. So you have to understand that they're all Samoan, but we're all at different ends of a continuum or spectrum. That's a political answer I'll give you in my mind, but I learned to appreciate that over time, and so when that question turns up, there's an anger in me, because I'm like, flip, man, you got to take the good and the bad. We don't get to pick and choose.
100%.
But then you almost see it like a dichotomy. That then also says, oh yeah, you're either Samoan or you're either, you know, it puts you in a real tricky position, because then you either got to pick and choose. Where in reality, if there's Samoan blood in you, man, you're Samoan,
With that target scheme as well, was that is that the same scheme where people like there was a percentage of who gets to get into this program? I've always hated that, I've always hated it, and like I hated it even back at uni, only because I feel like this is the time when those students who didn't want to identify with their culture now want to be Samoan, or now want to be a Pacific Islander, because it boosts their chance to get into a program, but not doing anything for the culture in retrospect. And that's why I've always disliked it, and I've always disliked because like there's actually people, or actually kids or uni students back then, even when, like, you know, that grew up the same way we did, heavily involved in the culture, and you know, you've got like obligations besides schoolwork. Is you know, you've got to wake up, you got to look after your siblings, you got to make sure, you know, everything's all sorted in the household. There's so many avenues of you on to how to opportunities to mismanage your time, or the stuff that you have to go above and beyond in order just to keep up with everyone else. And then you've got this person who doesn't go through it, doesn't identify with their culture, but all of a sudden uses it as a way, and just to, you know, like enhance their chances to get in. And that's, for me, I've always like I was never one to apply for any of those like courses, or for any of those studies that required the percentile to get into those programs. But I know, like, for me, like, just when I used to see people talk about it, and it was like not ridiculed, but it just like it almost like it diminished the value of being like a Pacifica student who strived and struggled and grinded their way to you. And that's like the fact that you can diminish their efforts. That's something that's never sat right with me. So that's how I felt about it.
Very valid, man. A very interesting and different angle as well, because there were different camps in terms of, like, why do we have to have the separatist system, or why are we even trying to get them in? But honestly, I felt the exact same way. Pick and choose when you want to.
Exactly.
Why these guys who like go live and breathe the stuff, and then you just use it as a tool to get in, and we never see you again. And that was what faced us as a committee. We're like, okay, so if you want to come in, now we're going to set in these obligations. You got to be connected to your community. You got to be thinking, because it put us in a tricky position. Because then who gave us authority to be the gatekeepers of who's Samoan and who's not, eh? So we didn't put a blood quantum. We gave it an affinity, eh? So by all means, you could have bluffed it. But after the first year or first couple of months, you know who's legit, who's not. So as part of your targeted admission scheme to get in, you had to demonstrate some element of positive role modelling and community engagement and stuff. For the critics out there, like, you can just con it, whatever. But we took that legitimately seriously as a way for you to connect. But because we have to account for those on their journey, because there was some real anti-scheme, anti-thing. By the time they came through, they realised, shucks, it was okay to be brown in a restricted program. It was okay to be brown at university. We just never found that bastion or that safe haven. So it was a real kind of thing. You know, whilst people are different positions on the affirmative action scheme or the quota scheme to get in, it's essentially a plaster to what essentially is a broken education system. If we had a quality education system, whether you sent them down the road, you know, to Otahuhu Primary School or whether they went to King's Prep, then we wouldn't need these kind of things. But the fact of the matter is, we've got different schooling systems, different resourcing, and different things. And that's what breaks my heart every day, is when we go to pass the bus stop and we got our best talent going to different schools instead of us sending them to the local school, funding the actual local school, and the community getting in behind them. But we're never going to we're going to forever have those targeted admission schemes unless something happens at a fundamental level, unless all school resourcing is equal. But remember, education's only one finger in a hand of considerations. You can have the best school, but if I've got the poorest parents, right, or I've got parents that really struggle, not financially, but, you know, there's other stresses at home, you know, pretty much 80% of what goes outside the class is going to affect the learner. So, I mean, but at least the school can do their part to ensure. You know, the saddest thing is I could break down the statistics of those who made it into university, or those who made it into the restricted programs. We're talking about your law, medicine, and engineering. And I looked at the law statistics. Those who made it in the 300 places, 2/3 came from private schools. So what does that tell you? Therein lies, like, man, you got to either go to a private school or just, I mean, it's a simple way of looking at it. But then you peel it back a little bit more, and then you realise a lot of these guys, not the first time to university, not their first, mum and dad's a partner at a law firm and so on and so forth. So from the start, these guys have already got to jump. We're in the second half, we're just running out of the tunnel kind of thing. You know what I mean? So we're going to have these makeshift kind of plasters and forever unless we address fundamental issues outside of the, you know, education system. And it was the saddest. In my whole time, I worked from 2012 to 2017. We didn't have one boy from Kelston. We only had maybe one from Mangere College that went on to graduate in the space of 5 years. So first year is open entry, 1,200. Second year we take the top 300. So everyone has a shot at the 300. If you don't make it on the 300, we take the next best 13 Pasifika on academic performance primarily. And then secondly, we look at your cultural affinity. So look, we saw hardly any from South unless it was a Macaulay or a King's or, you know, the real kind of resource schools, for lack of a better term. And so, you know, it was heartbreaking, and we just figured out, hey, we've got to do something about it. But it's the best of what we got. It's hard to think of an alternative system. But then they were saying, well, why don't we just look at like the income of parents? Because that's almost a more effective indicator, right? Mum and dad are really struggling. Why don't we just give them places based on the low socioeconomic kind of thing? And then they basically introduced the low socioeconomic quota, and only 5 people could. It was five spaces set aside. So
no, that's a good way to put it. It's like a band-aid solution, just to try and mend the gap between different socioeconomic backgrounds, man. And now that's awesome that you guys have the foresight, and I understand, like, moving forward it'll get better and better, but like
the hope was to remove it, but and I think from an end user perspective, they wanted to have the profession that reflects the diversity of the clients in which they serve. So in a criminal sense, unfortunately, disproportionately Māori and Pasifika, but yet we just didn't have enough in terms of the actual profession, eh?
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
And there's with those statistics in mind, does that heighten the value of like getting more and more Pasifika students into university or into a trade, which has been like a massive push over the last 5 years?
Yeah, I really, honestly, man, I think I say this time and time again, we have to diversify what we measure as success, because university has often been synonymous with success, and our parents brag about it. Yeah, I guess, okay, I can't be too bad, but you know, man, like, vocations, I cannot plug enough, to be fair, I'm on a board for one, but man, like the amount of the skills in which they acquire, you know, they're transferable. Let's take building, for example. Once you do your building apprenticeship, you can build here, you can build in Samoa, and so on and so forth. Same with law, but these are essential skills that will carry you forever, and you don't walk out with a student loan. You know, there's a government scheme at the moment, first 2 years, you know, paid for by the taxpayer, by your taxes kind of thing. But we want to get more and more of our people, you know, into these different vocations, but it requires a fundamental change of our psyche in terms of what we perceive as successful, because it can't just be university, right? You know, business owners, entrepreneurs, you know, builders, plumbers, trades, STEM. Now we're moving down the STEM track, So that's exactly what I think, you know, and now our generation comes through. You know, if my son or my daughter was to tell me, yeah, I want to go do you know, plumbing or whatever, yeah, man, back them.
Yeah.
But go get a degree first, because that's what my parents said, because you can do whatever you like, but go do a degree minimum, So hopefully we see that shift in terms of what we perceive as success. But I mean, yeah, there's value in university degrees, but honestly, man, what a time to be a tradie, What a time to be a builder, man.
That is crazy, man. They're cracking it. Like, yeah, it's pretty much just like uni. Till you get your papers, when you're doing an apprenticeship, there is that struggle of, you know, you're only getting apprenticeship money. Oh, quick question. Do you know if apprentices, do they count as getting the minimum wage or not?
So, yeah, minimum wage now, straight up flat,
for everyone,
for everybody.
Bro, $20 is not too bad then as an apprenticeship.
Not too bad.
And they were like $5, $7.
But there's a starting out wage. There's a starting. So there's two kind of. So there's a third. So there's a minimum wage, $20, and then we've got like a starting out kind of training wage that applies to two sets of kind of workers. One is for like youngsters 16, kind of not as a trial period, but kind of as they upskill, and the other one's for kind of similar class as well, but it's 80% of the minimum wage, so 80% of $20. But it's only supposed to be temporarily before they go up, like I think it's 3 to 6 months, like a trial out period, so I can't remember exactly what it is to memory, but it might be $18 kind of thing.
That's all good, man.
Yeah, but that's still good, so it sounds good, but remember we have to measure with the cost of living. Because $20 is all good. Remember those days you could stretch $5, but now
you can't, man.
$5 can't even buy my $5, $3, but you know,
it cost them what, $10 to fill up, or not fill up your car, but
what's your $10 thing? That's a trip round Auckland, but now, but that's how the apprenticeship kind of thing.
Oh, nice
thing works. So, and then sometimes, say for example, depending on the government, they might fund employers to take on apprenticeships. There might be schemes where they fund the employer to kind of take on the apprenticeship, and then the apprentice gets the skills, but the employer, it becomes financially viable for the employer to kind of take them on, because they're giving them a experience in exchange, so it's one of those things. But man, especially if you look at the housing crisis, man, building is where it's at, but I think if I could encourage our Pacific providers, our social providers, because there's a massive move against the transitional housing and emergency housing, like building these things. The goal is to be self-sustaining, So we run a organisation called Oceania Careers Academy out in Ascot Park now, near Airport Oaks. So it brings our young Pasifika builders or traders, kind of like people that are wanting to build and trade. They acquire skills and then they go out into the workforce. The dream is that we get them to start building houses by Pacific for Pacific kind of thing, so our people can enter into it. That's the ultimate hope kind of thing. So it's a cycle. But man, I love this organisation, because if you compare us to all the other PTEs, private training establishments, we're head and shoulders above them in terms of the vocational space. And the reason being is because the Whono, which is its kind of other subsidiary, its parent company, provides the wraparound support. So they meet with the family, they connect with the family, they take care of their social needs and so on and so forth.
Nice.
The problem with Western learning is you only look at the individual. Don't worry about the rest of the family. But because we take on these kids, they take it really rough at home. Man, there's that kind of infrastructure behind like the support infrastructure that the Whono provide, which is social, medical, dental, all for these kids. And that's why you take these guys. Sometimes are the most challenging kids, but they've excelled in our course, because we've provided that wraparound support. So that's kind of the model that we use. So not people know about whānau order, but whānau order is one of the greatest tools that can help families. And so the Whono delivers whānau order for Pasifika people.
What is the Whono?
So the Whono was primarily a healthcare provider. So the Whono out west, so it provided clinical help, so medical help base, so help people. That's how it got first foot in the door. But now it provides social help, family start, those non-violence programs, kind of things, social work programs. Then it's got a dental, because dental is expensive for Pasifika. Bro, honestly, I'm better off just
pulling out your teeth,
setting my teeth itself. And then, so they identified, look, it's too expensive, let's create our own. Then about 6 years ago, we realised, hey, we've got to have a Pasifika kind of education provider, a PTE that takes care of it. Then they created Oceania Careers Academy, or OCA. And so we're trying to cover all bases, because it's kind of a bi-Pacific for Pacific. We claim our own problems, we provide our own solutions using our own Pasifika kind of way and ethos. So that's exactly what the Whono does, which what started off as a dream as a primarily clinical is now branched out into all these other limbs.
Nice.
But for me, the housing kind of space, or if we're going to bring through all these graduates who are builders, well, why not start building? Why not compete with the big boys when we're doing contracts and stuff like that?
No, definitely. And obviously, like, not just building, but like, you can if you get a good team, and you get a good team of plumbers that can come in, electricians, or sparkies, like, and if that's all there's heaps of good quality tradies out there, and I'm sure it's just more so just getting in touch with them and letting them know the initiative that you guys are running. So which sector are you running at the moment, the education, or are you part of the education team at the Whono?
So I'm on the board for the Whono.
Oh, you're on the board, nice.
For the actual Whono, so we oversee all those. But and on the board for OCA as well, for Oceania Careers Academy. So it's I like it because it's outside of my known kind of sphere and circles. So man, like you really develop skills in a governance sense. A lot of our people work in the operational sense, but we don't have much representation in the governance sense. So these are the people who set the direction and the kind of strategic kind of where we're going to be in 5 years' time. And then we give it to senior management. So we identify the vision. This is where we want to go. Like local board, this is where we want to go as a community, 6 outcomes. Then we give it to our officers, and they go or we give it to our senior managers, and they go and embody it in operations to deliver it. But most of our lives we've been working in operation, so when we got to governance, I was like, huh? What am I doing here? You do not really know. Foreign space. So we need to build capacity and capability for our people in governance spaces. So I learn way more at the Whono than I do anywhere else in that governance space, because it's medical as well. I know nothing about medicine apart from gout medicine, because I just get gout all the time. But outside of that, you don't know about the governance or clinical side of things. So it's really I really enjoy it, but that little kind of, it's almost like symptomatic of governance boards across the country, or across health, for example. We hardly got anybody sitting on DHBs, of Pasifika descent.
Fair enough.
Even in the private sector, how many can we actually say sit on a board, And diversity is the in thing at the moment, Diversity this, diversity that, police, diversity this. well, if you want to be diverse, show us your governance board. Because for all your frontline workers, I'm not interested. I want to see who's actually sitting at the table, setting the... So, I mean, anyone raises diversity, it should be your first question. Who sits on your governance board? Who are the real shot callers around here? And then you're able to infiltrate from there.
No, that's awesome. I did want to talk to you about the whānau as well, and obviously your involvement with them. So thank you for sharing that with us. Another key factor why I wanted to bring you on board is because I know you're part of the Otahuhu Mangere Local Board as well. Discuss with us or give us a little insight of what your involvement is with the local board and what does that entail, and how did you get on board with it as well?
So cool, thanks. So it was a bit of a wild card, like a wild card in our eyes, but in God's eyes, so so you can either run as an independent or you can run on as a under a banner, and because Mangere is labour hard, like hardcore red, the challenge was getting onto the labour ticket, because there were two people that were going to retire, Carol Elliott and Tafafunai, servants who have done really well, like really politically astute, works at known. So when they stood down, then because I think so you have 7 people on the Labour ticket. You have 7 seats, and those seats are pretty much guaranteed Labour because everyone votes Labour. So 2 people stepped down, and then technically there were 13 of us running, but 5 of them are incumbents. So there's unspoken rule: if you're an incumbent, you stay on. Right, so in essence, that left 8 of us going for 2 spots, and then you just give a pitch as to why you want to run, and then if you get selected, then and then so Dr. Neil and I and myself were selected, and then we got onto the local board.
Was there for internationals, you have the eligibility rule, you have to stay at least a minimum of 5 years. South Auckland.
Honestly, I think to be honest, it was because who's this random guy? So man, honestly, it was a bolter. Everyone thought, every World Cup squad has a bolter, just a random guy. But so. It's just you just have to be a financial member. You can pretty much stay anywhere, but you just have to be a financial member. But even that, I just joined real late as well, kind of thing, But just anybody who's out there who's wanting to run, because politics is supposed to reflect its community, right? And yes, whilst we like to have everybody with all the qualifications next to themselves, but man, you got to give voice to everybody, and that's the difficulty of the machine. The machine actually doesn't reflect the community in which it serves. It's almost a prototype. They have to be this professional A, B, and C and stuff like that. But man, it's supposed to reflect everybody. So
nice.
So to kind of break it down, Auckland Council, there's what we call the governing board. So they're made up, I think, of 22 councillors. So Mangere, Otahuhu, and Otara Papatoi constitute what we call the Manukau ward. Right?
Yep.
And we get 2 councillors, right? They sit on the governing board, our Filipaina and Efeso Collins, Whanana Efeso Collins. So they are 2 reps on the Manukau board, so they're the governing board. And then we've got the local board. So it's supposed to be a co-governance model. So we've got 7 on our local board, and we've got 2 from our ward on their local board. And basically we pay rates, so everybody pays rates. So if you own a house here in Auckland, you pay rates, and those rates go to governing board, and then we get a portion of that. We get a slice, so we determine what to do with your rates.
Nice.
We have 6 priorities in which we look at. So we determine 6 for our local board. So it's a range of things. Our first one is we want a strong local economy, so it's helping people such as yourself, local businesses, small businesses to grow, and also partnering with our large employers.
Nice.
And then looking at a variety of different things, from our natural environment, ensuring that we have taking care of our environment, because we're probably the most susceptible to climate change, us in Otara. We'll have the most adverse kind of effects with us, will impact us the most. There's children and young people as an elderly as an outcome. How do we ensure that we support children and young people within our area, and also the elderly that we have? So our local board has the highest proportion of young people in Auckland. So we've got a youthful population, but we have an unskilled population. So 75% of our people have qualifications below level 3. So what happens when COVID hits or when industry shut down, and you're not skilled. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the real worry that we're facing. So you can understand why we're trying to teach people these STEM subjects or skills that will transcend any lockdown, or any kind of emergency as such. So all we do in a nutshell is decide what happens with these resources. Do we put money into building new roads or upgrading the town centre, or do we put money, so that's called capital projects, or do we put money in operations, opening the library longer, funding seed grants to fund creative projects as such, arts and crafts and stuff like that. So that's basically what it is, and what we do. And we need the community to tell us, okay, what are your priorities and where can we invest your rates better, So that's basically it, So if you look at our pools, for example, so why is it that we have free pools? Because we decided as a local board that you shouldn't have to pay it, but we put on what we call a targeted rate that every ratepayer pays only here, exclusively here in Mangere. I think it's $33 or something like that a year. That enables you to go to the kaele, the pools for free, and bring your cousins from West Auckland, the poor guys, to come use our free pools and stuff like that. But so as a local board member, you sit there and you wonder, man, if I pass this, what impact is it going to have on our people, And that's where like everything comes into play. Your upbringing, your church, how's this going to impact church-based communities? Or, what about the people that don't necessarily reflect my values in that, like parangis and stuff like that, who live in this area? Yeah, true. How do I appear that I care for them as well? So, yeah, man, we get slack all the time, or like you're walking around just taking photos and stuff, but there's some real heavy stuff that sits on your mind.
Goes on the background as well, a lot of work.
Yeah.
You just mentioned it briefly. How is Otara, Mangere Nuruhu more susceptible than any other areas to climate change?
So for one, we've got the Manukau Harbour, so any sea level rise will probably but then we've got the lowest tree coverage. So apart from your street, because I was driving out of any, so we're offsetting carbon, right? And not just that, but if you look at our economy, we've got the second strongest economy in Auckland, primarily because of transport and logistics at the airport. But if the government, or if we're serious about our climate change, we have to move these fossil fueling kind of industries like transport and logistics to greener kind of things. So it's not just sea levels rising. We're talking about moving industries into kind of, more greener, more e-commerce kind of things. And so where does that leave our unskilled workforce? A large unskilled workforce. So that's what we mean. Some real financial and environmental kind of impacts that'll have if we're not careful in terms of how we're going. And then there's a deeper kind of concern because, for whatever kind of contribution you make here, we've got to spare thought for those who are in Tuvalu, Tokelau, Samoa even. That, we're the big players here that kind of emit carbon, and they're the ones who pay the price. Ultimately pay the price.
Yeah, that's how I thought you. That's actually interesting that you shared that. The way I was thinking about the question was the social, emotional impact that it'll have on the people that dominate these areas, obviously because climate change does affect the islands more than it does. So that's actually I never really thought about that. The tree coverage is really poor.
It's the worst.
I think every road has the one or odd tree in front of the house, but it's always cut down by the council, and not cut down by trim, so it's so it's not a hazard on the road. But I never really thought about that. And another thing that's real bad as well is that most of our areas are quite condensed as well, with a lot of housing. So
there was one more thing though. So council are wanting to kind of so if we want to be serious about our climate change, we have to devote resources to it. So if council introduce a climate change rate, and the rest of our people are makoe broke, it's going to impact our people the most. So that's the financial cost that it has.
Another thing I wanted to talk about is obviously the allocating of resources. So stuff like grants, so obviously, you touched on it before, for small business owners as well as other creative projects that are happening right around the community. If we were to apply for grants, what is the I know what the process is into applying for grants, but for you as being a member on the board, what is it that you look for, or what is it that stands out, or what makes one application stand out more than the other?
Well, because every local board in Auckland has a plan A. And like I said, if it meets the local board's priorities, we're more inclined to give it A. So study what the local board plans are, because it differs throughout Auckland, eh? So I encourage anybody who's watching, ask what your local board plan is. It sets the priorities for the next 3 years. So first of all, if you fall under an outcome, that's sicky. But if you just do your like little prep, like number one, who's it serving, right? Who are the amount of people that it's gonna actually impact, and how do we make it sustainable? Demonstrate to us that we grant you this one-off thing. How are you going to make it last? How can you diversify so you're not always applying for this respective grant, but it makes it a bit more sustainable kind of thing in the long run? And just like are you bringing anybody through? The succession things kind of thing. I know I won't apply for most things, but boards are always receptive when they're thinking about the sustainability and the kind of succession of particular organisations as such. And then, even if they want to choose to kind of be creative with their application, attach a video, because it's all paper based. Record the data, record the people that come if it's a short clip and stuff like that. Because it's one thing to see it on paper, but we'll remember the applications who took time to edit a video and say, this is what we do, this is what we think. But that speaks more to an outdated system that only accepts paper-based. We've got to diversify how we bring in apps, but that's how it works. Different boards have different contestable funds. And so can I just say that there's funds in what we call local board, and then there's funds in central government, right? So there's two separate, what we call local government, that's just us, the clubs, and then you got central government, the franchises, the Super Charles, the Blues and stuff like that. So when you get to the Blues, come to good old Manukau Rovers with us, but then there's actual money in which central business can fund to help people there if it falls in line with the government's priorities. So that's how it works in that one.
Okay, so when you're obviously applying, are you looking at both the government, their agendas, as well as the local community, and see whether
where it overlaps, yes.
Okay.
Where it overlaps is, but because we've got a set mandate, that's why we encourage our people, have a say in your local board plan, because there might be priorities, we've got it right, or we off the bat, or we off the mark kind of thing. You get that right, you're good to go. But if you get it wrong, then but people just don't choose to engage, They don't choose to engage, and that's part of our problem, is trying to get people to engage. So when it comes to apply, it's way easier, kind of thing. But we also ask, have you looked at other sources? Because remember, our pool's limited. So if we see that central government's offering more, go knock on central government's door, right? Go see there, but know that we're here. If you can, tap into there. If you can't, well, there's always us, kind of thing. And that's it.
No, that's awesome. Obviously, a lot of interesting things have happened over the space of 12 months. We had the lockdown. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, obviously already being on the board for Mangere and Otahuhu, what was Ihu Mātau like for you guys? Did you guys have to, was there a role you guys had to play in terms of not mitigating, but like managing the whole issue itself, or like were you guys part of the people?
It was interesting. Because at the time I wasn't on the local board yet. So I'm not too sure exactly what the official local board position was. But what I can say is that they were incredibly connected with the haukainga, what we call haukainga, or what we call mana whenua, the people of the land. Like the actual mana whenua is what they call a political construct. They just made it up, kind of thing. But haukainga are the actual people who live, breathe there, kind of thing. So they got a real good kind of relationship with Te Akitai Waihua or Te Ahi Waru and the other haukainga kind of people in and around there, kind of thing. So it was more, we stand in principle, but we won't make an official statement because we'll let you guys sort it out yourselves, kind of thing, because it was an internal issue as such, kind of thing. And then you kind of look at Labour's position, they just bit their tongue. They were like, wait, we'll make an official statement. And once thing was, and kind of New Zealand first held that up to be honest. And hence then before the end of Christmas last year, I can't remember, they announced the position. Personally, because I know Pania on a personal sense, kind of thing, but because down the road as well, so we went, and then so we went down and stuff like that, and so agree in principle, but it's one of those things you just tread carefully because you don't know all aspects of the issue as such. So glad that they got the outcome that they wanted, but sorry, just 1 second. Mum, there was issue, and because I don't really know the true dynamics of it here, and I don't want to go on record making outlandish claims as such, but what I do know was Alpito was there during their Soul campaign, Save Our Unique Landscape and stuff, and so it was just different voices from different things there, but that's their mandate, that's what they choose to do, and I really feel strongly about Māori. I honestly believe, they hold the solutions themselves, and I think as a country where, and even Pacific are quite immature in regards to the relationship and perspectives of Māori, but there's always for me a soft spot for Māori in general. I know it's a homogenous term that people don't really like to use because each iwi have their own kawa or their own ngangangu'u or kapu and stuff like that. But for me, I always put myself, if that happened to me in Samoa, you know what I mean? Bro, honestly. And
but I'm 100% with you on that one. For me, I think the older I get, the more I do appreciate the people, especially our Māori brothers and sisters, just any Indigenous people in general, because thankfully one of the good things about social media, all the advancements in technology, is that information is right at the it's right at the press of a button, and so like during the Iha Mata stuff, I did do some research and just around the world in general, and even our brothers and sisters in Hawaii and some of the stuff they were going through, even the Native Americans, and it's quite sad, some of the stuff that they have to go through, and some of it is self-inflicted, obviously, some people were making shady deals back in the day, but at the same time, our society has grown to a point where we can acknowledge the wrongdoings of our past, and people have got to be more understanding as well. But that comes with growth, that comes with maturity.
And I think as a country, I can honestly say as a country, that whole get over it mentality, you're telling a nation that literally 2 centuries of colonization, and you realise why they feature and why we feature, because even Pasifika walk alongside them. All the social indicators, we're dealing essentially with what the core of colonization is. It has profoundly impacted our people, Māori people, if I can say so, intergenerationally as well. You can't just view something in isolation. It's a culmination of things that have happened, and so when people get over it, and which heaps, you see it all the time, heaps of people, and even amongst our own, why are they always crying? So when that happens to your people, and you get dispossessed of your land, if that ever happened to Samoa, and Samoa got really dispossessed, then try to unwind that. There were active movements to get rid of their language, cultural custom, practices. What we're seeing now is literally just, the byproducts of 200 years of that. So how many generations will it take for us to turn the tide on that, And that's where the kind of greatest hope is, especially for our kids, we want them to understand that and realise that your life is just not in isolation. You have benefited from either privilege, or you've been on the margins for all these years, and that's the reason why. And you try for everything at it.
Even to this day, and it's quite saddening in some points that it's what do you call it? It's unconsciously done.
Absolutely.
People don't know, some of the stuff they say, but it's just like what you said. Oh man, why do they get this, or why do they get that, or I thought we're trying not to be racist. You're benefiting one race or the other. But that's it, man. It's 200 years of colonization. The thing that always saddens me is people are quick to forget, just how you spoke earlier about you know how private schools benefit of public schools. That's the same similar race.
Exactly.
If anything, like our Māori brothers and sisters, their ancestors had the best shot out of the gate. And then, like, another foreign power came, and not only did they say, now hold up, let's start together, but then they go, wait, let me start. And for 200 years, and that's why, like, whenever I see Māori or Pacifica, like, who do really well and like are willing to bring the next person up on board, like, I've got so much love and respect for that man. But like, for any indigenous culture, like, like, as bad as Maoris over here, like, Aussies are, they're just finally, they've just opened up in, like, a couple of years ago, they finally understood, like, we did, what we did back then was wrong. I don't know whether to what extent, like I don't think maybe they did. I'm not too sure. I haven't done that much history where the Maoris went into slavery, but I know the Aborigines did.
Even up north, there's like blackbirding and stuff like that. Because I was in Brizzy, one of the museums in Brizzy, and even they acknowledge, people were just seized, taken aboard, kind of thing as well. So but man, some real
stuff like that like that make me just appreciate the indigenous people so much more. Like, one thing is, like, you have your real hearty indigenous people who, despite all, like, all negative, like, showing from the wider public or the majority of the public, like, they've never lost hope.
Absolutely.
That's another, I guess, bright sentiment out of those type of people. Is just, like, I know the Aussies, especially the Aborigines, were happy when that happened, and even with the Māori community as well. Like, they all indigenous communities vie for each other. And
it's big time, man. And I think that's the common denominator. If you've been on the margins of an oppressor, an external oppressor, you're bounded by that kind of struggle. That's why there's so much affinity and connection with the indigenous people in Hawaii and Canada, Sami people over here. There's so much stuff to it, and we could have been the same, man. You study Samoa's history, man. We could have been the same, but we're blessed, and there's leaders laid down their lives for what people believed was independence, and kind of reclaim that independence. The danger now, I would say, is the insidious racism that we see, the institutional racism that is built or embedded in our kind of structures. That is the most dangerous form, because I'd rather have an overt racism where they just tell us straight up, no, they don't like us, kind of thing, than it just slowly creeping through our education system, slowly creeping through our health system, because it only reflects the values of the dominant culture at the time, but it's not truly diverse or truly addresses the inequities, because that's what we don't discuss enough, is equity. Everyone wants equality, but we actually need equity, fairness, and it always shows that picture of the person standing on the fence. Equity, yes. Equality is everyone gets a box the same size. Well, that's granted, everyone's the same height. But equity is, a different box to meet the things. That's what we kind of need.
Nice. Just a curveball. Obviously, another massive thing from last year was the Black Lives Matter movement. What was your position on that, and what was your position on people who followed that but chose to ignore everything else that was happening in our own Pacific community? Like, I wouldn't call or label our people black, but like, there have been aspects of the same type of treatment, like, not to that drastic measure what happened in America, but there's stuff that was happening in, like, West Papua. I know there's stuff that happens, like, even in around our community. I mean, there's no measure, or obviously you can't measure the level of racism. You can't compare to America what we see here, but racism is racism. So, like, what did you feel about it? Well, like, did you have any sort of feelings towards it, and what did you think of people who supported it but chose to, like, turn a blind eye to stuff happens here?
Yes, that's interesting.
The reason why I ask you all these questions, because I know you've obviously you're always well spoken, but you always unpuzzle stuff in a way that it makes it real cool for me to understand, but it'll be cool for the audience.
Yeah, see, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I was like, nah, it was interesting, and I agree with that last part, Like, it was a case of, man, sort out your own backyard, but it doesn't prevent us from standing in principle with people, Like, if we go back to what you were saying in terms of Indigenous struggle, and then you can always stand with something in principle, And I support that position, So I support you guys in that position. But it takes various forms, So other people will go march. Other people will just agree. There's a range in terms of how you will support it,
Yeah.
Some people might. But to be honest to the Lord, I didn't unpack it, to what they actually believe. What are the core tenets of Black Lives Matter? Is it actually the discrimination of or the over surveillance of black people, or the oppression of black people through police surveillance or police kind of brutality? Then even the blind man will agree. Of course they, because statistically, blacks, is no different to Māori here in Aotearoa. Just subject to consistent, over policing or surveillance, police brutality kind of thing. So there's bits and pieces that I agree with, But I'd just leave that at that. I stand with you in principle, in whatever form that principle might look like, or whatever that stance looks like, varies, But if you measure it in terms of you going to the protests and stuff like that, that's all power to you. But I also recognise how you pointed out, you've stood for a cause overseas, you've turned your own blind eye to what's happened at back, and the reasonable personal belief, take care of your affairs first and foremost, then go support others, So if you view it just Black Lives Matter, then that's cool, I stand for your principle. But if you view it as a range of responsibilities, then you're kind of almost failing on that part, because you haven't taken care of your business first and foremost, But it depends how we frame the issue, If it's a set of different responsibilities because you stand with them, then I stand with them. Anybody that's oppressed, I stand with. But I just want to encourage people to unpack what it really stands for, Unpack what it really stands for. And that's why I don't make such grand statements, because I haven't really unpacked what the true core tenets of Black Lives Matter is, If it's police brutality, then by 100%. All means I stand for it. If it's discrimination in terms of black entrepreneurship and so on and so forth, man, because even getting business loans and such like that, I'll stand with you as well. But when it starts to get to ideological kind of differences and stuff like that I haven't unpacked, then it's difficult, But just like any theory, just like any organisation, there's no one silver bullet, So you just read what, take the time to understand, take the time to unpack, and then make your position known, and then don't go and whanga other people for it. That's the biggest problem, Then people start going, just learn to respect, and learn to articulate your position, and appreciate others. All the more reason to have that discourse, and easier to kind of move forward, But I think you raise a real valid point, And ka solo, and she was all down Queen Street, but yet, West Papua. Genocide's going on, kind of stuff like that. So it's a real kind of
it's for me, I don't have any strong beliefs for or against it. It's just stuff that I always just look at and be like, oh, okay, and then obviously get the chance to share how I think about it, or share the situation and get another perspective on it. And obviously why I shared it with you tonight, it's just very another bad thing about social media is that's just people are just easily influenced and just jump on board, but without, like you're saying, unpacking or doing a proper research in terms of what are the intentions behind the movement itself. But that just goes along with everything else that's been happening.
And you gotta be careful, man, social media is conditioned to the point now where algorithms will just show you what you're interested in, So when you're only receiving that kind of narrative, then you're gonna close your mind, you know, that social dilemma, that social dilemma kind of thing, and if you look at behavioural studies, stuff that manipulate kind of things, man, it's a crazy world we live in, this has become indispensable to our lives now, because it's all been conditioned and planned. So it's a real interesting time, man, to be alive. But it's one of those scary things. But hey, man, I like it, and that's why I like, you know, when you can finally discuss topics with people who don't sit on the same spectrum with you. But man, it becomes all the more richer when you can do it in an amicable way.
But like, I forgot what it was, man, recently. But that's one of the things I said, and it was in a post, like, just about like having an open space. You may not have to, like, or open discussion, you may not agree with each other. But like, just as long as you go about, like you said, in an amicable way, that like, you can walk away and not be pleased, but like at the same time, like, you felt like you were heard and you're
man.
What it matters.
But if I was to say one more thing about social media, so like, and especially as a Samoan, they got that. Like Vakapu, there's a sacred space of absolutely everything. Vawhenga comes down, but it all stems from Vakapu, the sacred space. Not the Samoan Chua one.
Rondo's favorite. Mr. Vavao.
Man, shout out to him and Lemore and all those who are teaching in that space, the cultural custodians, especially the newer age guys, Neil and all those guys, but you know, that's supposed to be the cornerstone of Samoan culture, you know, the respect of that sacred space, And then when I see comments from Samoan people online, I'm just like, and you click on their profile picture, it's praise Jesus. Oh, I feel alive. You know what I mean? I was just like, whoa.
But you're so right, like, that's always been one thing, is like mutual respect them, and it's like on social media, it's like almost like a space where it's like void of any sort of like cultural like
norms or like, but you know, as a Samoan, man, you carry that in every aspect of your life, but man, they just don't give the vow, you know, give your words that are sent, man, online, I'm like, where is this, man? Where exactly is, you know, the vow that we're taught to kind of go see and respect, and why hasn't, and that's one thing I always prided myself on in the Samoan parliamentary kind of chambers. They will go at it back and forth, but they will always be underpinned by respect. They always still have that whāroa at the end of the day. Man.
I'm probably not the best one for keeping that online, but like, you'll never. I'm pretty confident that you'll never catch me on you'll never catch me online like bad mouthing or calling any other Samoan or any other islander out. Not in that kind of way, but I know what you mean, man. It's crazy, like oh man, like most of these people are in Samoa, man. Like you'll find them. Like, there's a thing, bro. Like, and it's like, oh man, it's just so tough. But like, it's almost like what's the word? Like everything that's like all their opinions and all their views is just magnified because like they've been waiting for an outlet. So every time they jump on social media, it's like times 100, bro. Yeah, but
bro, that's so interesting you say it, because you think about it, because we've got such a structured society, a stratified society that, you know, only certain people are permitted to speak, and then you have this one tool that enables you to go handies. Shucks, that's actually a good point, man. You know.
Oh, and plus, like, lucky for us here, we're in the growing stages of social media, so we had access to like you know Wi-Fi or data. So like we eventually got to be to where we are now, whereas like now the structures for telecommunication back in Samoa is really well, but that only happened within like an 18-month span. So like for Samoa got Facebook, Snapchat,
TikTok. See, do you want a TikTok all on one? I'm just like,
that's why it feels like it's been magnified, the impact, especially when it comes to negative topics or of discussion. So Yeah,
Like, man, Samoa's a podcast in itself, man. And we got to acknowledge, hey, we live overseas. The biggest thing that gets me, man, honestly, is when people from overseas apply almost their norms, expecting it to happen in Samoa, realizing, man, Samoa's a totally different, beast, things operate differently. We can't apply our standards to Samoa. Let Samoa decide for themselves. I'm not saying that we're not Samoans. It's just that we have where we're living now is incredibly different to things back home, kind of thing. And so interesting during the elections and just how they navigate. I just wish Samoa the best in terms of whatever their leadership might take and look and might be. But it's just, you always hold Samoa in a romanticised notion there, but even still, that aside, die hard Manu supporter, so I'll just fuck that one there because I know we've got time, but
sweet as well, Samoa. I'll ask a couple more questions and we'll wrap up. It's just part of our quick fire questions. There's some topics obviously we won't get to discuss today, but hopefully later down in the future when you're free, we'll definitely have a chat about it. One thing I know you're quite passionate about is our beloved Auckland Blues. First of all, what's happening? Second of all, do you believe in our boys making a run right now to the finals?
I think there's been a cultural shift within the actual Blues franchise. I think so. We're starting to lay the platforms. Maybe not in this season that we might make a run in, but we've got the makings definitely. And you've got players in the junior grades now wanting to come back to the Blues, almost like a plague. Everyone will go everywhere else. So I think we've got the makings. We've had the makings, to be honest, for the past year or so. But it just depends in terms of how we're going to actually run. So I mean, if the Chiefs prove that a run is possible, but it's just little things that I don't know where the experience brings in and around, plays a big factor to get the boys just those little lapses in the game, whether it's the back end of the second half or the just out the break that kind of but now we've got the players, we've got the things, but it's just more so that's where the old heads come in. It's been to close out the games or the game management and stuff, and you still got a young fly half. He's incredibly good, but we'll see how it goes. Sorry, it's my mum. Bonkers,
I always talk with Filippo from uni.
He's
a hearty Hurricane
Cade supporter.
He's a rugby aficionado himself, and so I always have deep discussions with that guy regarding rugby in general. And for someone so passionate, he's quite unbiased as well, and he just looks at the overall game. What are your thoughts on Otere Black and him being the person to, especially for this year, to carry us through?
I mean, Tenants are only good as the pack that they run off, and I think we've got a solid pack now. And it's the philosophy that the Blues want to play, or their style of play that they want. Now we're getting back to that free-flowing rugby kind of thing, so they know when to distribute. Then they, for some reason, always go kind of almost try to play percentages against the Canes kind of thing. So, but I just got to say, so in my club experience, so I can't really speak about, but. Granted, he's got, it depends what 12 weeks, because we're always interchanging our 12s, Whaiane or Plummer, and Plummer plays the distributor kind of thing. So it really depends in terms of what kind of philosophy we have on attack or even defence kind of thing, and how, whether Otere Black is the actual guy to think. I reckon he does alright game management wise. But that's I think perhaps, does it come off experience one more season to know how to close out the key games, or how to kind of play the right kind of plays in these periods just after the break where we fall asleep or just prior to the break kind of thing. That's probably where and that's why I was happy that DC was there kind of thing, and Bodie to get that experience to instill that kind of new management kind of thing. But that's Manu Samoa's biggest problem, to be honest, and you can kind of understand it. But why Tusi hung around so long was because you try put in a club player or semi-pro player in the highest forms and try game management, So that's the hardest thing, and it's something that what do you leave the country, let them just go to custard, or do you try and face the young players to come in, and the only way you can experience that is chuck them in the deep end or just mould them as we go along kind of thing. But
so you're saying about the mental block?
I think it's just a mental block. We just got to roll them somehow, whether it's through percentage footy or just actually just playing our style and just not being afraid to chance their arm.
it's quite unfortunate, but like it's actually a good thing as well. Like the fact that we play against Kiwi teams, like obviously it breeds a better competition. Keeps everyone on check week in, week out. But something I do miss is like, say like we had lost against the Chiefs, and if we had like an Aussie or a team in between, you know, boosts, like, you know, and then get back on the winning track. But you can't do that. No Super Rugby at all, man. Like everyone turns up week in, week out. Another question about the Blues is like with Bowden coming back and obviously Roger next year, like man, like when is it gonna finally kick where like we've got abundance of talent now, like it's ridiculous, and then we've got like a ever-growing development. Like there's some mean players coming through school as well as in the Auckland level as well. Like what is it gonna take, man? Like is it gonna that's gonna be the season or what?
Man, because even that, we're still configuring our backline.
Yeah, man.
How you look at the stability that Mo'unga and that they've always had a Mo'unga. I mean, Will Jordan recent, but they know their kind of 10, 12, 13 combinations. Same pretty much we see it for most franchises. But we're still chopping and changing, eh?
Yeah.
And then the difficulty coaches have to manage is the rest and rotation policies. Well, not rotations, but the game management that they're allowed to play kind of thing. So it really lies off Leon and where they want to take the team in the next kind of team, or the next 2 to 3 years, eh? And that's where I see there might be benefit in just holding Oteri at a 10.
Yeah.
Because if this guy's going to be chop at change, at least you've got security, stability, and thing.
Yeah.
But he's not going to get you to win the game. He's not going to game break. And like, you know, that could be the $1 million question. So,
you watch much Auckland games over the last?
What, like the actual club rugby?
Like the ITM.
Oh, the ITM team. Yeah. Bro, Auckland got a solid squad.
No, that's what I mean. Like, so like, the person I'm waiting for to break into the scene is the fullback, Son Sullivan.
Yeah.
He's like, for me, Perifetza doesn't offer much from the back. Like, he like even his counter attacks, like you're not like worried about it.
Yeah.
Like, and like if that's me watching from TV, imagine being a defender. You know he's just gonna crash.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have a step, but he doesn't like. I don't know what it is. Maybe it might be just like him at 10. He probably sees the field different from him at 15. But for me, like from him at fullback, he doesn't look to attack the line. Yeah. He doesn't look for space or just does like the simple things like kick it up and chase. But like,
and that's what we had with Michael Collins, to be honest. Other than the fact that perhaps Perifetza might have a bit more gas on him. Yeah. But you know, if we want a game breaker from our back,
especially that's what I'm waiting. I'm hoping that Son Sullivan gets a chance because bro, like he's got a massive boot.
Where do you so RTS comes next? Where do you place him then? Is he running at centres? Like, you know, like it's a transition, man.
Yeah, I reckon.
And did he make the right move coming to the Blues?
Yeah, no, I reckon he had to. I think for him, he's looking to try and get into the World Cup squad. What they have at the Blues is good enough for him to develop.
Yeah,
I think the easiest thing for him would probably be to start off at wing and then make his way back to fullback.
So you push out Telea.
Yeah, I would push out Telea. Telea's probably he's the man. He's a good dude, man.
Consistent. Yeah, like honestly,
he's probably a bit overshadowed sometimes just with how good Caleb is. But yeah, I would put man, like I wouldn't mind Roger at fullback, to be honest. Like as long as he knows his roles and where he needs to be on the field. I think he needs to understand his role as a fullback's different between the codes. Yeah,
and even the time that he played in his in the Blues 20s, or you know, when they've done the franchises kind of thing, and like the game's changed so much, like to what it is now. So it'd be interesting where they place Roger and just the nuances in the game, and the game's changed.
Because like time. I do like that Son Sullivan kid, like
you really sold on him.
Yeah,
you know, I say, man, Northland produced, Harbour produced, like man, like the catchment. We've got some solid talent.
That Son Sullivan dude's like reminds me of Izzy.
Just that elusive.
Yeah, just like just looks like casual when he plays, but he can help your 10 in terms of clearances. good positioning on the field, good support runner as well.
Yeah.
So like I like him in, but the good benefit of him is that he's only 21.
Yep.
So he's got years to develop. But I just hope like that Leon brings him in. Like there's no better way to learn than just to be put straight into the fire. Nah, cool, man. So optimistic views on our Blues.
After years. Like 14 years of sorrow, near misses. I mean, the last playoff we made was Pat Lammy.
Pat Lam.
Yeah, that was it. But seeing Pat Lam at Bristol, man.
Yeah, he's the man, bro. He's doing real well.
Just
and
the culture he's transformed.
Exactly, bro. He's received no backlash about the brown players that he's playing and stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know, like I think for him, like he probably had the luxury of going in and implementing that culture, whereas compared to with the Blues, we weren't ready, but at the same time, like historically Blues is like a gentleman's, like run by a gentleman's, like the old boys mentality, especially with the glory days that Auckland used to have back in the day. But those times are past, and it's good to see that they let Leo McDonald kind of open it a bit up.
Yeah, because there was always talk, of our favoritism, or to partial towards Auckland, like Auckland clubs and stuff like that. And but it's good to see that Leon and perhaps even the management or governance, kind of started to be like a change in that space, and it's been pretty interesting. Yeah. Speaking
of Super Rugby, obviously we found out the addition of the Moana Pacifica team. What are your thoughts on that, and what are the benefits and what are the dangers of the team in terms of our player catchment for Pacifica players?
Yeah, our benefits is actually, this is what people have longed for, a Pacific franchise, so it's a Pacific I'll get them behind it. I'm almost like tempted, bro. I'll go support because we finally got a team, But what people have to realise, kind of hit, you have to concede certain places, So I see there's a bit of backlash because there's some representatives from the NZRFU actually on our board, or this GM kind of thing. But man, it comes with the territory, It really does, And then to a point that you made, so if we return to Samoa in Tonga Rugby Union, who, with greatest respect, have had governance issues in the past or financial transparency issues in the past, to run the Moana Pacifica, then, where do we kind of think? So the benefit is, if 80% of it is for our players, then we bring the overall level of kind of, talent or professionalism to our respective players. They'll be eligible for Pacific representation, the exposure, not only for them, but also to get picked up on contracts overseas, livelihood for their respective people as well. So it means good things for the actual kind of home unions, like your Tonga and Fiji. For those that were in the know, there was a bit of backroom dealing in regards to the proposals, and even the kind of law bid, which was, it's real interesting, the kind of law one. It kind of, it's another story for another day, but I'm just really happy that they're there. Yeah. Now, obviously, Daniel Leo's been very vocal about that respective thing, but you got to be pragmatic, There's got to be some skin in the game. In NZRFU, it's got to have some benefit to NZRFU, so not no fool when it comes to that kind of thing.
Well, from what I understand, it seems like NZRU are pretty much, I wouldn't say funding the team, but pretty much helping to set the foundation for the team, obviously being based in Auckland. I don't know if the Samoan or the Tongan Rugby Union have got any financial
so the board that put it together, some members I am aware of or had some good conversations with, and so they had some pretty good backing of your BG and stuff like that, but then also Pacific Business Trust came on through to help, and certain representatives from there, so it was a really good kind of bid that was actually put forth to the union. The question was the financial viability, because the union were only offering a 1 year deal. So what investor's going to come in for 1 year, not even be secure for return? So it was about time in which NZRFU and World Rugby, because they owe it to the Pacific, just felt like almost like a moral obligation to actually put their money where their mouth is, put it together, and actually support these bids. And to the point in which you said, well, this is an opportunity to actually build the capacity, not just for the players, but the capability of the administrative administrative side and coaching side to come and learn from the best and implement it back home, because they've got the pool of players. It's hard to get competition back home, but if we can get those little bits and pieces right from the top of governance all the way down to club rugby, then we'll start seeing the I guess the products of what New Zealand rugby already kind of thing.
I had a discussion with someone on Facebook regarding it, and like all valid points, and I don't want to like it is important for our local Samoa players, but it comes back to the topic we were talking about earlier on, like the different levels of play, like the standard of play. Like you can't get someone from Ireland and just thrust them straight into like the professional representative, like standard. It's just too much of a jump, and it doesn't benefit anyone because the likelihood of them even getting game time is not realistic. Unless they played international circle for sevens, maybe I would understand, because at least your fitness side will be up there, your skills should be up there. So like maybe that will give them a chance. But like you said, like administrators as well as coaching, they're the ones that go back home and implement all these. So they're the ones that will help to develop the younger talent coming through, and that's the people that I would really want to target, hopefully, with the Moana Pacifica. I don't care too much about the players.
That's such a undiscussed side, is the almost the infrastructural side of running a franchise, and you're totally right, that's because that will transcend. There will always be players, but are there good administrators, are there good structures that we can set back home that allow to foster and retain good talent, or give them the exposure that they need?
Bro, like look at the main, like what makes us different from Fiji. Like we've got the same amount of talent, same amount of pool selection, like their local players are doing far more better, and that's because not only are the players that go away and play international always come back and feed back into the infrastructure there that they have in Fiji, but at the same time they've got like the coaching, they've got like the developing officers there to help breed the game on almost like on a club level, and then like all feeds up through to the seven. Like for years the Fiji sevens have been dominant, but it's only as of recent, like last couple of World Cups, that they are forced to be reckoned with in the 15s game. So like
it's got a good setup there.
Setup, and that just stems off from like having a proper infrastructure in terms of management and coaching. Something that I think the Mano need to address, because it's like I said.
It's good, see Lala's there, Coach probably be hard for him because obviously borders closing and stuff like that, and the internal politics that we don't really see.
Bro,
so
because like I hope I see Lala there, that some of the boys from that 2011 World Cup
squad, man.
So hopefully he can get Mahonri back on board, get the support of the locals. Like the only thing I have an issue with say Lala is like I don't know what his coaching acumen pedigree is. Like for me, I've always like believed that not the best players make the best coaches. So like my dream would be I hope that we can get someone like Filo Titi on board as well. Obviously he resigned from Auckland, and I don't know what the issue was. But
I thought him and Lama were awesome, Like
they were awesome.
The year that they took us to the championship, they were.
I think it's just for me looking from the outside, it's the generational player now, probably used to the old school tactics or the communication that probably Philo, because I heard he's quite old school. But for me, like I feel like that's needed more now than ever. Like as to give is Paul more accountability. Obviously the way he delivers the message might not be what is normal, but like for him, like who Rico is now as a player is like I can say like probably 80-90% is because of Philo Tiatia. He instilled that belief, instilled that mongrel in him, and like just him leaving it's gonna hurt the Auckland team big time. And so I feel like this is a perfect opportunity for Manu Samoa to pick someone up like him. Like if he can teach what he taught the forwards, because like we can have the most average back line, but if we have
forwards just
we'll be rumble. Because like I said earlier on, like we're getting more and more players now looking. Obviously, they won't be able to make the Tier 1 nation team that are looking to play for
the Lay brothers,
their heritage.
Hey, even Alalatua, he was the man.
He was the man, bro. So, like, I do hope like that they can pick up Philo. I hope that they can pick up like someone like a Leon McDonald, like, or a real onto it single advisor for the next World Cup, so that like, man, someone that could like help think out the box, or someone that can, like, someone like Tony Brown. I know they would never ever get the chance to get him, but like someone that could make the best of what they have.
Yeah.
And that's what Tony Brown's doing. So like, I would love to have Philo on board as the forwards coach. Obviously, he's got cultural connections there, but then who they would have as their backs coach or their technical advisor, I'm not too sure.
Yes,
yeah, but like there's heaps of people out there, and I just hope, like, because with Seilala, he should have the respect of the players already.
Yeah, I think so. You know, like you said, man, like, I think he'll be more relatable to the current crop of players in terms of the style of coaching and the methods, because here's are some horror stories of the old boys kind of culture that they have, kind of thing. It'd be good if, like, you get a guest from one of the teams, from one of the past players to kind of give you an extra insight, because we're just speculating from outside of what we hear, and you're like, on good authority in some cases, but it'll be, man, exactly what you pointed out, like, sometimes you need the hardline approach, old school approach, but it's the person who is able to balance those things that can actually deliver. Manu the next run to the glories, mate, to the playoffs. So
it's what, 2023. If your borders open up, then where's is it? I
think it goes back to France. France, goes back to Europe, France.
But
man, they love their props in France, man. They love their islanders over there, the forwards and stuff like that. So I think Census is still going, you know, like Balongo Viti, like all those guys. Joseph Corey still jamming, but it's just all the new guys that are coming through. Chris Vuis, like all those guys, man, like Vuis, he's pretty underrated, man.
If we can get Philo in there, man, like, bro, like, the thing of the comment that I always liked about him is, like, he's like, one of his things that I've heard, I think it was, I don't know what interview it was, but it's like, it's just like, put your head in a dark space, like a dark place, and do the job. Like, he's that kind of old school, but like, it's good because it makes, like, if you're reckless about your body, and you're selfless for one another,
you're going places,
you're going places, bro. And that's like the kind of culture that he was after, especially with just his forwards, because he was saying, like, it's not like a, like, it was not like a masculinity thing, but it was more like, bro, if you want to be tough for the boys, kind of thing.
Go to the dark places, man. Like, you know, those guys who go to war.
But that's what it is, and like, that's what made that Auckland run special, man. Like, the way they won as well against Canterbury, like, in overtime. Bro, like, you go back then, look at the players that run that team, bro. Like, not many superstars, like, obviously the Kira, a young Caleb Clark, but guys who weren't really established.
As Jordan trainers and stuff like that.
But man, I hope, that's why I hope.
You're league as well, or you follow league, or you more union?
Queensland, and that's about it.
Oh, true. Like, if you said New South, I would have walked out. I could cut the entire interview right now.
Oh man, I gave up on the Warriors.
Yeah, sorry. If you said Warriors, I'll walk out as well.
I don't know, like, for me, there was a year where they just let go of Cleary as a coach, and Christian and Inu, they let go of
2012, 2013, in and around that time.
The Abundance, and they let go of Maloney. I love Maloney, bro. Like, he was, like, even during their shit season, he was still the man.
Bro, they have a knack of just signing the worst people, and then they find an odd gem like Maloney, Michael Luck, or guys resuscitating careers like Jacob Lemon. Almost becomes like a retirement club. Just come cash a check.
That's pretty much it, man. Most of the players that they've signed on board now, like, they're good players, but it's like all of the same mold. For me, like, I do watch league a little bit, but I think the key signing they probably missed in the last couple of years was probably James Graham. They needed, like, a stalwart like that. That's all about the club, brings good leadership values, but you can guarantee an 80-minute,
carries himself. Yeah.
And it's like something that they should have addressed. Lee frustrates me, bro.
Yeah.
It frustrates me on another level. I don't know if we've got time for it, but I hate the defensive structure.
Yeah.
I hate the way they play. Like, you carry the ball within a 15-meter spread for the first 3 sets. You're not moving anyone. You're moving just a guy up in front, but he's already dropping back 10 meters, or he becomes a marker. Like, you're not moving the defensive line. Why would you split the field into 2 and like,
when realistically you only got to attack it?
And
or
the thing is, like, another thing is, like, they're on defense, like the pivot, the center and the wing, they read the play so bad, and it's annoying. Like, for me, it's like they do so much work. Like, obviously, say if it goes to the right, they cover right real quick, just to slow down and then stop and look what's happening. Like, trying to read the play rather than like just trust the guy. Instead of you have comms, and that's what we learn in Union, bro. Like you just stick to the shape, but what ends up happening is, like, half of the squad's going out this way, and then the guys at the end who let the tries in, are reading the game different. And there's space, like, little things like that frustrate me. Another thing is, like, kick chase. Like, firstly, the kick chase, you only have one side chasing up, and then, like, for me, it's like you've got, like, skill set players. You've got a winger, fullback, and another winger. Like, if you know one side's chasing up, why would you start the play there? Chuck it in the middle, start on the other side, and you can get an easier 10-15 meters because that side's not chasing up as hard as one side. Like, that makes a lot more sense, because, like, the side that's being kicked on, they're the ones that are playing defense as well. So wouldn't it be more easier for them just to, like, drop back less, and then let these guys do the work who are chilling out, and they're the ones that run it back up? I don't understand. Like I said, like, the 15-meter window, like, why does it need to be just there? Like, why don't you keep moving along? Like, for me, like, I've seen Union grow so much in the last 10 to 15 years, yet League has still stayed the same. Maybe the players have gone a lot bigger, a lot fitter, a lot stronger, but the core essence of League is still the same. Like, it hasn't developed much. That's honestly, like, it's stuff like that's why I can't watch League. Like, Origin, I love watching because it's so, like, competitive, and it just, like, it's the showcase of the best of the best. What about you? Your highlight League?
I like watching it, but honestly, in recent times, I've kind of just pulled back from League and Union. Just watch movies and stuff like that. But I try to catch highlights and stuff like that. But like, I mean, like, explain to my wife, it's easier. You get 6 tackles and a kick. Trying to explain, like, to Union, they're like, what's this? Is it? So from a viewer perspective, like, if you're just a standard person, like, it's far more easier thing to explain. Greatest respect because of a lot of technicality and stuff, but you can understand Union and the development of the game as well. And they, to their credit, have made changes, but still in essence relatively the same kind of thing. The pace has gone faster, are trying to experiment left, right and centre kind of thing in terms of 2-point drop goals and stuff like that. But in essence, every attacking team does the same thing, back goals and stuff like that, and but it's just a matter of who has better forwards or backs, game managers or whatever. So it's relatively the same. Whereas, Union, man, different style of play up in Northern Hemisphere, rather set piece heavy kind of thing, and different. Whereas over here, perfect balance of attack, defense, set piece kind of thing. So you're totally right. It's kind of almost regional, the style of play and philosophies of play.
Like, I'm waiting for someone to flip the script, like Union was like that as well until someone like what do you call it?
Well, look at basic thing. Samoa Sevens, the kickoff. Nobody ever played the attention to the kickoff, but then post like 2010 or like 2007, like Wale Mai and stuff. Man, kickoff like restarts are massive now.
And
just like this little
both 15s. As well.
Like little man. So you're right.
For me, like League play right. They play deep but quite flat at the line when they're taking the ball up the line. Like, I feel like they need the forwards need to be trusted more in terms of developing their skills with the ball. Like well, if you see Union now, man, like the tip on, not just the tip on, but the tip on like times two, like
the back,
because the forward can get a quick ball and then scoop it off again. Like I reckon league need to trust their skills, and like obviously there'll be mistakes, obviously there'll be learning curves, but like especially with how they play flat at the line, and all you have to do is breach the one line of defense, and it's just you and the fullback. Like I would risk that all the time. Like, and then eventually, sooner or later, like it'll just become a norm. But like, there's different stuff like that the league need to improve on. Like, there should be no such thing as like backs, forwards. Like the forwards nowadays at Union, their skill set is crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hard out. Hookers playing like backs, man.
Yeah.
Like, right, in that respect, in individual positions, if you were to measure it, man, you got sevens that can play 12, 13, you know, like out backlines. And
so, like,
athleticism's crazy, Yeah, you're right, man.
Sweet as awesome. Come to the near end of our show. I'd like to ask these two questions. It's always something that I always ask all the guests. What's one quote or one word of advice that you've been told from a young age, or recently, up to you, but that's something that carries you every day?
Something that carries me every day. Oh man.
Or carries you, or something that always sticks with you?
Shucks. It's just, I don't remember, just my dad just saying, love people, like, you know, and it's quite pertinent to the skill set I've been blessed with. Like, if you're gonna help somebody, make sure that, you know, you're helping them as if you're helping your mum or someone that you love, because you know you'll go the extra mile, and that stuck with me. Anyone that's in a service-facing role, you know, if you treat everyone like you treat your mum, not like this, because declining your cause hard out, but it will change your perspective on how you do everything, and how you go about your business, and perhaps the same way God looked down on us, like, you know, He done it for us, and, you know, sacrificed His life for us, and He would give everything, So probably in the same workman-like way I go about my business was lofo ka ngaka mai ka kua whamaongi, like times where I was like, do I have to, kind of thing, but you know, it's what we've been taught, it's what we're obligated, it's what we've been blessed with, so it's an official quote, but
No, all good. So the last question for today says, in 3 words, describe like the journey so far for yourself. Obviously, being a proud Westie, devout Christian, proud Samoan, proud Kiwi. To the person you are today, obviously, local board member, proud Blue supporter. Always doing stuff for the community as well as our culture. Just 3 words that best describes your journey thus far.
Probably the first one's a beneficiary. So I was a beneficiary of my parents' sacrifice and the community and church that raised me. And you could say I was a beneficiary of their prayers as well. I'd say I've been incredibly blessed. Like, there's a real blessing that I've received for the love and education and the opportunities that I've been given, handed and earned, and it's stuff that we have to claim, I get real insecure, when I talk about qualifications, or because when you've been raised to just not really speak about your cause or be humble, or the fake humble ones, I mean, you get real insecure about your achievements, like, but then you realize, hey, man, you worked hard for it, but this is more you praising those who have helped you along the way. And then probably the last one is the responsibility, because through that, responsibilities arise and obligations arise to those who are less fortunate than you, and those in which you aim to serve or have been a product of. And by no means has my life ever been easy or you try to be holy, but you make mistakes, and you try to be real, but it's all part and parcel of the journey. Like, so, that's it. So, beneficiary, blessed, and responsible.
Yep.
That's probably the three off the bat. You drive home thinking about all the other things. I should have said this, should have said that. And I go and can you just edit my voice? But that's the three that come to mind.
Nice.
So that's pretty much
Bro, there's a yell through words, man, and that's a new one, responsible, and that's actually pretty mean as well. Siki, man, we'll wrap up our podcast for tonight, man. Thank you again, Harry, for coming on board and for jumping on our podcast today. I'm always been messaging you hard out sorry for being annoying, just to get you on board. I know the amount of insight and knowledge that you have working around with our people in a tertiary level, but now on a community level. So it's awesome to see the progress that you've made as a person, and just to see where you're going in the next 5-10 years. It's like hopefully it is for political aspirations. I feel like you'll probably be a good voice, not only for the community in terms of South Side or West Side, but just a voice for our Pacifica people as well. So all the best for your future endeavors and what lies ahead for yourself, Harry, and and thank you for coming through.
Awesome. Cheers, brother.
Sweet
as. Bless, brother.
Yeah, sweet. Cheers.